Hi, welcome to Please Advise, a podcast on marketing, growth, and social and environmental impact. I'm Sam Ruiz, and today we get to talk with Kayla Castañeda of Agua Bonita, an agua fresca beverage company, and I am so thrilled for this conversation. I'm so excited to have Kayla on the show today. We get to talk about a lot of really important topics like fundraising and the importance of diversity in the food space. So it's a great conversation, and I am so glad you're here to tune in today. Let's jump in. Kayla, welcome to the show. I am so glad to have you here today. Thank you again for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I am super excited to chat. Always a good time to talk with you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would love if you could just give our listeners today a quick intro on you and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so my name is Kayla Castañeda. I am the CEO and co-founder of Agua Bonita. Agua Bonita is the first line of healthy, ready-to-drink aguas frescas. We make our drinks with 100% real fruit that we always try to rescue, non-sparkling water, and sometimes spices to get those really nostalgic flavors like watermelon chile. And what's special about us, besides the fact that we try to rescue produce, is that we use no added sugar in our blends. So really bringing a modern take on tradition to the masses.
Wow, that's incredible. I am very eager to try some, by the way, especially the watermelon chile. It sounds like summer.
Yeah, that one is my favorite. I am a big fan of like sweet and spicy anything, like all the Mexican candies, like everything, always here.
I couldn't agree more. And I've heard a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are, but I would love it if you could give us a little bit of history on what you did before you decided to found this amazing company.
Yeah, so my background is a little bit unique in that I worked for like quite a few different corporations, like large corporations. I grew up in a super small town in Central California, and actually within a 100-mile radius of our town, we grow 60% of the nation's produce. So very much agriculture centered. If you want to look at cows or orchards, you come this way. So I, just wanted something totally different as I started graduating high school, and I got a scholarship that took me to New York City, which is like total 180 of where I grew up. And like most broke college kids, I started waiting tables and whatnot. And that's where like my love of the culinary side of food and beverage, like the actual like real heightened experience really started. But I started working for these large corporations like Major League Baseball and Starwood Marriott, really like honing my sales skills, my like brand management skills, and but always finding myself like drawn to the food and beverage side of even those companies. It's funny because like every single corporation, you think MLB, you think, okay, baseball, but there's like a huge food and beverage side of that with like the concession stands and all that kind of stuff. So always really loved dabbling on that side of things. And then I found myself working for Coca-Cola. It was an opportunity to come back to California, be near my family, and really like dig into beverage, which had always been like my favorite part of food and beverage. So then I worked for Coca-Cola for a few years as a market development manager, where I really got to meet small business owners, meet large business owners, manage a whole brand of portfolios, and see what was the best brand at which place to make the most money for both the small business owner and Coca-Cola. So uniquely positioned me to found a beverage company, I would say. And then just wanted to start working in a capacity that allowed me to make more of an impact. And so I started consulting for small beverage companies, startups, kind of got exposed to the whole startup life, which is very, very different from corporate culture.
Just slightly.
Yeah, the ping pong tables in the break room is the running joke of startups. But and then pandemic rolled into town, and that's really kind of like the start of Agua Bonita as it is today.
Wow. And I mean, so many things to say there. So one, it sounds like every single step you took in your career kind of led you to this moment, which I'm sure now with like the hindsight, you're like, wow, I can see it so clearly. But it's pretty incredible to just think about that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I was talking to one of my cousins the other day, and I just told him, like, I really believe like this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Like, it's just a culmination of so many other life experiences all like boiled down to one moment that it just feels like, like really walking in your space.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend as well about like that sentiment, and it's almost like putting on the right pair of pants after like a lifetime of like trying the wrong size, and then you're like, wow, this is this what it's supposed to feel like? Like this feels so nice.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, on that note, after the pandemic, all my pants fit a little tight, so I'm glad that my career at least is feeling like
figuratively.
The best fit. Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Don't worry. I think everyone is like pandemic pants time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to hear your story, and it's amazing to hear what you're doing with Aguas Bonita right now. And there's so many things I love about this brand, right? So the sustainability element, first of all, you're rescuing fruit. Like, how do you even go about starting that?
So actually, there's this huge like upcycled food movement. And it's really incredible to see, like, there's Upcycled Food Association, which just came out with like actual standards to like vet products against it to see if they qualify for that certification. But then there was like already small startups that were already working in the space, and some that have like really big recognition now, like Imperfect and Full Harvest, So I think although we are one of the first beverages to do that, the upcycled food movement in general is kind of already like picking up steam. And then like on a cultural side of things, it's funny because, sometimes like in the corporate world, an idea like seems so novel and seems like so big. But then like when you look at like things from a cultural perspective, like Hispanic families don't let anything go to waste in general. You know what I mean? Like that's usually like the consensus there. And so it just felt like this idea of like rescuing surplus produce or like, upcycling wasn't really something that was like far removed from my life. Like my grandpa would bring home like bags of fruit from the fields after work that were just like overripe because he was like, no one's going to use these. They're going to go to waste just laying there on the side of the road, you know what I mean? And so it's really kind of just bringing that way of growing up and bringing that culture into the corporate space.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. So like how much of, obviously like Aguas Bonita, there's so much of your culture there, but I would love for you to share kind of that side of the story into what, did you feel like there was a gap in the market for you, or was it just kind of right time, right place? Like what led you to decide to start this?
Yeah, so it was a bit of both. My co-founder Aaron and I, coming from the backgrounds that we did, especially like Coca-Cola, we had so much consumer data. So we knew what customers wanted because we had spent so much time in the field, like talking to customers. And we knew that they wanted things with no added sugar. They wanted things that with like real ingredients. Also, there was like this subset of consumers that wanted really nice craft drinks, but without the bubbles. So like we're decidedly non-carbonated, for this first line of drinks. But we knew these things, that people wanted to see more of these traits in drinks that they were purchasing. But then when we like vetted that consumer data against things that like really resonated with us from a cultural perspective, like Aguas Frescas was the clear like choice by and far, and then it just, so it's like another one of those moments where it's like, yes, like right place and right time, but like was kind of always there, it's like we just took something from our kitchen and translated it into a commercial scale. And I think that that's why we're seeing the success that we're seeing right now, is because we're not necessarily like reinventing the wheel. We're just giving it, some updates. We're just like throwing rims on it.
I love that. And I love the fact that you are decidedly not sparkling water, because I despise sparkling water. Like, unpopular opinion, like, apparently, but
I don't think it's that unpopular of an opinion. I'm in the case, I would rather have something non-carbonated. I mean, I know that there's tons and tons of sparkling waters coming out, so obviously there's a demand for them, but there are people like us that would rather reach for something that is everything that the non-sparkling water has, but without the bubbles.
I mean, I love it. I love the idea. So you launched during COVID, right? Like, in the midst.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that experience?
It's unique is the only word that I can use to describe it. Because hopefully there will never be another time in our lives that we go through something like that. And there's so many people that were unsure of like what to do with their time, for good reason. There's people that were having a really tough time with like the isolation. Everyone was like losing their jobs. You had to stay home. So it was a really tough time. And the way that I approached like starting Agua Bonita from that perspective was like, look, if this fails, it doesn't even matter. There's so much failing in the world right now. Like, really distinguished companies are going under and taking hard hits and stuff like that. So even if we start this and it doesn't do as well as we would like it to do, the only thing that we will have lost is the opportunity to start this. And I think that that's like the spirit that we took with us as we started to like really make the decision, like, we're going to go, head first into this. And like a saying that we've jokingly used over and over again is like, when life gives you lemons, make aguas frescas. Because it really was like, what are you doing? Why are you like, the world is in disarray. You've lost your job. You just had a baby, like my co-founder, and it's like, yeah, let's start a company, like on top of all of this, but it gave us the clarity and it gave us the time that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise to dedicate to something like this. And I think when big shifts like the pandemic happen, it makes you reevaluate what's important to you and makes you really sit down and spend time with like, what do I want to be doing in a professional capacity? Like, what can I wake up every day and feel good about working on? And yeah, it brings that clarity of like, yeah, this is a project that I would feel great, even on the days that are bad, waking up and working on it.
Yeah. And I think you raised some really great points there. And I think it's almost going to be like a renaissance type of thing. I think now that we're getting beyond the pandemic, it's so many people had that opportunity, to reevaluate what they were doing, or were unfortunately forced to, due to the situations. But I do think that there's going to be a lot of creativity and innovation coming out of it as people kind of start to relook at how the world works and question the status quo and question the norms that were already in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say two things that I hope really stay from pandemic is being able to order cocktails to go and yeah, and also just like not feeling the pressure of having to show up somewhere. So sometimes it's kind of nice to just be like, yeah, I think I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah, I agree. I have plans tonight, actually, that I am already planning on canceling. And it's just like, during the pandemic, we had so much more downtime, and I get energy from being alone. So it's like, when you don't get that as much, you're like, okay, I need to like look after myself a bit and just draw the line here. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. My friend may not, but
yeah.
One thing I actually really, really wanted to talk to you about today is diversity in the food space. And I think you probably have a lot to say on this.
I do.
Given that you are launching a new brand and it's a very close to heart topic. And I would love to just talk to you about why this is such an important topic and why it's so important for us to get more diversity in the grocery aisles and in the food D2C marketplace and restaurants and all of that today?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really big topic to cover. So obviously, Agua Bonita is a heritage brand. It is like front and center that what we're doing highlights our heritage. There's no doubt about it. Like you look at our design, it screams like this is Hispanic, this is Latino, this is Mexican. And that was purposeful. We really wanted to lead with that in a tasteful way. I think from just a design perspective, there's a lot of kind of like bland washing, I think it's called now, where it's like very minimal designs, everything's like that neutral black or cream, and we really wanted to go the opposite, but in a tactful way. So I think that we have accomplished that. But part of that was because we wanted to make sure that we were paying an homage to our heritage in a way that was not ever mistaken as being like cultural appropriation, because that obviously that has come up so many times with so many other brands that launch these types of products that actually are like so far removed from the culture. And so we really wanted to like marry our founder story with the kind of product that we were bringing to market. When it comes to why there needs to be diversity on the shelves is because these are the consumers that are actually out there. Like Latinos are the largest ethnic group in America right now. So it feels very careless to overlook this whole population that can resonate with products like ours. And so that's also been a big point that we make is that, like, yes, our product will resonate with these types of consumers. But then on the flip side, like, we're not just for Hispanic consumers, like we get that a lot as well. Like, like, oh, what happens when, will other people besides Mexicans know what this is? And my response to that is like, even if only Mexicans knew what this was, that's still a huge market, like still a huge market. But like, do you eat tacos? Because like, if you've ever had a taco or a margarita, like then you can have an agua fresca, so really kind of making that comparison and almost making folks feel foolish a little bit about like how they pigeonhole heritage brands. Because like there is really no need for that. I don't think that there's any need for like the ethnic aisle, right? Like when you look at, there's like Omsom, they're like killing it, and Siete, they're killing it and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, those snacks should just be by the other chips, like there's no reason for those snacks to be in the like Hispanic aisle. And so I think the more that we can work towards bringing these heritage brands in the main spaces, and for us, beverage, like there isn't really like an ethnic beverage aisle. So it felt like a good
sign next to you.
It felt like a good opportunity to like let our heritage stand on its own in that space. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, but those are just kind of like high level thoughts on like why it's important for us to represent ourselves the way that we do, how we want to be able to do that like authentically and in an approachable way, and why like these types of items should deserve just like mainstream space, not get pigeonholed into, ethnic subcategories.
I mean, to a degree, it's almost like another form of othering in which they're like, this is a different category than the rest of us. And it's like, no, it's still, it's water with fruit. Like, why is it different? Like, there should not be another way to look at that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we tell investors all the time is like, even if you're not familiar with what an agua fresca is, the actual product makeup is appealing to folks. It's water and it's fruit. And like, like, and that is like glaringly missing, like water, fruit, no additives, non-carbonated is like glaringly missing from like the competitive landscape. So that's like why we're positioned to win. Like, doesn't even matter if you don't know what agua frescas are. We could call it pretty water and it still has the same appeal, like from a product standpoint.
Yeah. And it seems like there's been great reception. I mean, I follow you on LinkedIn and I've seen that you guys have been doing a really great job. So would love to hear just like some of the feedback that you're getting from consumers, from investors, from customers on what you're doing.
Yeah, we are so thankful. We went on like this crazy pitch tour and got to bring home a ton of awards and accolades. So from a customer standpoint, we have like found our tribe and we like get new orders every single day. There's always folks that are like, because we've sold out a couple of times already. And so we have folks that email us like, when are you coming back in stock? People that have like reordered like 5-6 times, so on that front, we are doing like really well. And we are so grateful to like have found our like familia. But on the investor side, we are just starting to fundraise. And fundraising, especially as a minority and especially as a woman, is like a really tough road, which is kind of, it's unfortunate. It's more than kind of unfortunate. It is very unfortunate that it is such a tough road to go down. There are a lot of learning curves, and like it revolves so much around network. And you really have to have like those champions in your corner that are like willing to like, make those introductions and, set things up on your behalf. Because if you're not already like in the culture of like VC and whatnot, it can be very, very hard to like crack into. And then we're very new still, so it's one of those things where just balancing like the risk appetite between investors and finding like, okay, well, is this more geared towards angel investors or is this more geared toward like VCs and whatnot, is a huge juggling act. So I feel like we are just like constantly in these conversations, but we are currently fundraising and have been like chipping away at it. So yeah, so it's a full-time job in and of itself, just fundraising.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's so many elements to it, from preparing decks to preparing conversations to sub-conversations. And to your point, like it's definitely a who do you know game, unfortunately. And it makes it more difficult for women and minorities to be able to have those conversations and even get their foot in the door. I love how VCs call it like a pipeline problem, but it's like, it's also like, that's not what it is.
Yeah, no, it isn't. And even just being like a CPG founder is unique, because there's a lot of money that goes towards tech and like tech enabled things. And so CPG is like a world in and of its own where it's like finding those right investors can be a little bit difficult. But I think that we are making great progress in like having those conversations and starting those conversations with investors that align with what we're doing.
So you're fundraising, you're launching, well, you've launched, you're selling out.
Yeah.
What's next on the agenda for you?
Honestly, we just want to get Agua Bonita to as many people as possible. So we have had like a lot of direct to consumer success, and we have, gotten all of these awards on our debut. And so now we are focusing more on making sure that like at your local retailers, you can find us. And so, yeah, so I feel like that is really the next thing for us is you guys being able to like walk into a convenience store or walk into, like your local grocery store and be able to like pick us up off of the shelf. So that's really the next stage of growth. And that's why we're fundraising, is just because we have been so fortunate to get so many opportunities coming our way that now we just like want to capitalize on them to make sure that every single person can get some Agua Bonita and in new flavors. So we have a couple of new flavors that we're working on that we really, really are so excited to share.
Yeah, well, I am also excited, and I am very excited for the day that I can go to the Whole Foods downstairs and pick you up.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Yeah, yeah. I think that will be a very, very exciting day. I will personally buy out the whole watermelon chile.
Yeah, it's so surreal, like seeing your product on shelf somewhere, because we're in some retailers already, but like more boutique and like craft retailers. And so it's like, it's so cool. It's like, oh, I made that. Or like even now I walk through Whole Foods and as I've gone to like expand my professional network, and it's like, I see brands of like founders that I know, and it just feels like you're seeing your friend's kid like score a goal or something, you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh look, like I see the siete bags, and so it's a fun space to work in when you can like walk around a store and like really resonate with these brands on like a totally different level.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about consumer products is that it's there, like it's tangible, and you can hold it and you can see it and show it to people, as opposed to like, SaaS and tech is great too, but
yeah,
you can't like hold it in your hands in the same way.
Yeah, there's something about holding it in your hand, and like even like that. Nope, check me out. Like scan this. It's like so satisfying.
And like seeing the display, like it's all very exciting. Well, I am so excited for you and so excited for your journey. Where and how can people stay in touch with what you're doing, keep an eye on Agua Bonita, purchase some of your products, and all of that?
Yeah, so the best way is to follow our Instagram. Our handle is @drinkagua So that is first and foremost. We're always on there. We're always listening. We take any feedback there. So Instagram, come hang out with us. You can also check us out at www.drinkaguabonita.com, and you can pick up packs of both of our flavors there and some of our new ones coming soon. And in a couple weeks, you'll actually be able to grab us on Amazon. So if that is something that you're into, get that Prime shipping, and you can have Agua Bonita straight to your door. And then, just follow us along Instagram to see the new retailers that we'll be debuting in, because we have a lot of them coming in the next few months. So really excited to share.
Yeah, and I'm personally very excited to see what these new flavors are. I'm so intrigued. One final question for you before I let you go today. If you were to talk to a new founder who is, looking to start something and don't really know what to start or do, but they know they want to have a positive impact on the world, what advice would you give them?
I would say, you have to really find something that is going to give you fulfillment every day. Because there's a lot of days that it's not so fun being a founder. There's a lot of fires to put out all the time. But if you cannot, at the end of the day, realign yourself with, why you started and, what it means to you to see your project come to fruition, then it's just never going to work, So even on our very tough days, we have to sometimes sit back and it's just no, but we started this because we wanted to see this happen. We wanted to see us represented on shelves. We wanted to celebrate our culture. We wanted to be category captains. And so I think that that's the number one thing is figuring out what you can be happy with working on even on your worst days.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And knowing your purpose and knowing your why and using that to center and ground yourself is very important.
Yeah.
The hard days are hard.
Yeah. And don't be afraid if it doesn't work out. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, but maybe it's just another step on the path to where you're supposed to be. Because sometimes that's just how it works. Sometimes it's just a culmination of experiences that get you to where you need to be.
Totally. Yep. You'll find the pants that fit well one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Kayla, thank you so much again for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Thanks, you too.